Hello and a warm welcome to the next in our series of video logs, which are intended to be both thought-provoking and aimed at providing helpful hints and tips for GP practice managers. My name's Gerry and I'm a trainer for Thornfields Training, and today's video log will take about 10 minutes, so why not grab yourself a hobnob and a cup of tea and sit and get some personal coaching. The topic for today's video log is appraisal skills and feedback skills. And essentially this is born out of the fact that as we approach the end of the financial year, I'll give you some hints and tips on how to get the most out of your most expensive asset. Which is your most expensive asset? Well, it's your people. If you're a typical practice, then 6 out of every £10 you spend will be on your people. So if you can find some means of getting more productivity out of the same, then that is a real productivity gain. But this isn't just about being a financial imperative, it's also underpinned by the requirements of the Health and Social Care Act of 2008, which gives the Care Quality Commission its statutory teeth, especially Regulation 18, which is dedicated to staffing levels. It requires providers to adhere to at least 3 standards, those being that the provider ensures it deploys sufficient staff, that those staff are suitably qualified, and that those staff have the requisite competence and expertise to meet the needs of their patients. So how do you ensure you're getting optimum contribution from those staff all the time? Ensure that their salary is not a cost but an investment. Well, as with all things, annoyingly, there is no magic bullet. But if you can harness the power of feedback and embrace fully the potential of your appraisal scheme, then potentially that could make a real difference. If you want to know more about a productive appraisal, then you may want to have a look at the previous video log by a colleague of mine, Sharon. So it's not my intention to go over the same hints and tips as Sharon has done previously, but instead I'm going to give you a simple exercise to help you objectively calibrate the judgments you make on your people's performance. Calibrating performance sounds incredibly technical, but it isn't. It's something we do every day to distinguish between what we perceive as good performance and maybe not so good performance. And we carry that out in our regular lives. But sometimes in the workplace, it can seem more expedient to cluster together everyone's performance under a kind of cliched heading of just another good year's work. The reality is, in any team, the distribution of performance will probably adhere to a standard distribution bell curve, i.e. there will be some outliers at the leading edge of the curve who are underperforming, some outliers at the trailing edge of the curve who are overperforming, and a rump in the middle who are probably reaching good standards. Now, the challenge of those people who manage people is to both recognise those that are performing at a high level and to move the curve more towards the higher end of the scale, and also deal with those individuals who may well be underperforming. If you don't have a calibrated scale against which you objectively measure people's performance, then the real danger is something called grade creep, which is where possibly you judge what is really an average performance as good, and more worryingly, where you judge unacceptable performance to be acceptable. So I'm now going to share with you an exercise that we run as part of a course that we deliver, which is fine-tuning your appraisal. And an exercise which practice managers tell us helps give them real clarity on distinguishing between different levels of performance. In fact, some practice managers have subsequently decided to run the exercise in the locality practice management network meets to get a shared calibration of performance across that particular locality. Like all powerful exercises, it may appear simple, but it's certainly not easy. So whilst this could be run individually, It will deliver more benefit if you run it with some colleagues or actually the group of people who are doing the job that you're considering. Step number 1 is to consider the last time you went out with a group of friends to a posh restaurant. Yep. So remember that experience and now reflect on the behaviours that you observed or wished you could have observed in the waiting on staff. What did they do or say that you would categorise as either excellent performance, good performance, average performance, or performance that requires improvement? And by behaviours, I literally do mean what did they do and what did they say that led you to form those judgments. The paperwork to do with this exercise is downloadable from the article in the blog. In that paperwork, you'll see that we forced you to differentiate between different levels of performance by already populating the level that is described as a B or good performance. Once you've done that and you've discriminated between different levels of performance for waiting on staff, your next step is to apply the same approach to a group of jobs that you're responsible for. Let's take the example of your reception team. What behaviours, when you reflect on what you would want from your reception team, would you want to see from someone performing at an excellent level, at a good level, at an average level, and a requires improvement level? And remember to be as discriminating this time as you were when you considered sort of waiting on staff behaviour. Once you've done that exercise for each of the role groups within your practice, you've then got some objective standards to measure real performance against, which will then allow you to recognise overperformance, enable you to shift average performance to high performance, and also to give you real evidence to measure gaps between underperformance and where you want those people to be. So as always, I hope you found this simple exercise both thought-provoking and possibly of practical help. If you want to know any more about our fine-tuning the appraisal course or any other Thornfields courses, then please just get in touch. And so, until next time, it's bye for me for now.